And I'd like to bring on our final role model of the night, which we're doing a unique format here. They're already so excited over here. You know, he wrote. Actually, hold on. I got to show you this. So it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. There's a book he wrote. There's many books. Actually, how many books do you have now? 8 books out now, but one of them is called "Don't Read This, Your Ego Won't Like It." And I brought it on vacation with me to Easter Island, and I didn't read it. So. My ego knew it was in the book. Oh, I actually can't wait to get it. But Lauren had me hiking the entire time, so there was no time to read. What's that? I know the 70-year-olds on Easter Island were kicking our butts the whole time. Well, you can start coming on up. He's also his newest book, Fiercely Loyal, which is right here. How high-performing companies develop and retain top talent. There's some interesting facts, media out there for Dove. He's in Inc. magazine as 100 great leadership speakers for your next conference. Oh, right next to Richard Branson, for the record. So that's sort of cool, which actually I should have put Richard Branson next to you, which I guess now that I'm looking at it, they did put Richard Branson next to you. So,
it's alphabetical.
Oh... B-R. Wow. Well, no, you should have taken it. You should take, hey, why not? But you know what? I appreciate the honesty now that I should have caught on to that one. Well, actually, I can't spell, so Lauren just said it. One of the coolest credits that you'll ever see in your entire life is strategic leadership advisor to the UN State Department for countering violent extremism. Yeah, I can have an idea of what that means, but we're going to find out. You want to sit or stand for this? It seems like a sitting thing, right? Okay. So this is the first time I'm doing. Yeah, you take that. This is the first time I'm doing. Well, actually, I guess I did a format like this once, but the difference between the interview format like this and the last interview format is Dove and I talked. We were like, all right, what are we going to talk about? And we both sort of agreed to not know what the hell we're going to talk about. And I totally agreed with Dove, which, by the way, here's his stuff if you want to tweet him out, right? Those are the ones you want out there. I actually should have checked. It's because I was at a dinner with Dove, and I was just like, oh, my God. I just want to hear him talk. Like, you know, and he said things that totally resonated with me, talking about serving others. That dinner, we talked about things that just resonated with me. I think I went home to Lauren and was like, I think I met my brother who's my brother. Like, this is him. All right, so I want to start. Well, actually, you know what? Let me just start. The stories that people have said to you. Or I'm sorry, the stories of the people who are here tonight who have spoke. Love to hear how they resonate with you as a role model to me.
I thought they were amazing. What Sean was saying, you know, there was something in what you said, and I was thinking about it as you spoke. Understanding the difference you make when you don't know you're making a difference is vital. One of the things that changed I've been a speaker for 34 years, and one of the things that changed the whole way I looked at speaking was we'd just done this 5-day intensive, you know, and at the end of that, people were very gracious. They stand in front and they want to say thank you, which is very nice, but it's me. And so I'm a little in-your-face kind of guy. And so when you say thank you to me, I don't want that. It's no good to me. I want to know for what. And the reason I want to know for what is because not just because I need to know that, but you need to know that. Because people graciously say thank you, but they don't actually let themselves feel what they're grateful for. So I would always say, for what? And this lady stood in front of me and she said thank you. And I said, for what? And she took a moment. And I can still see her now. I mean, she was like 42, 43 years old, red hair, nice looking lady. And she paused and she said, for my grandchildren. And I said, really? You have grandchildren? She said, no. That's my daughter over there. She had also taken the program. She's pregnant. And I want to thank you for my grandchildren. I said, tell me what that means. She said, because of this program, it's changed the way I'll have a relationship with my daughter. And it will change the way my daughter has a relationship with my grandchild. And it will change the way I have a relationship with my grandchild. And it will change my relationship with all of my grandchildren that I don't have yet. And it was that moment that I realized that I'm not up there to speak for my audience. I'm there to speak to the ripple effect that they will have. So when Sean talked about that understanding that there's an impact, and so when I train people to speak, I always say, please remember that your impact is to people who will never know your name. So as a speaker, when I train people to speak, I say, you've got to know something about speakers. We're all second-hand rock stars. It means that we don't play the guitar well enough, we don't drum well enough, we don't sing well enough, but we want to be rock stars. There's no doubt about it. We've all got ego. But that can't be the reason you get on the platform. That can't be the reason. Like you, Sean, mentioned, acknowledging you got an ego, that's fine. But it can't be the reason. And so you have to get on that platform to speak knowing that you're going to impact lives of people who will never know your name. And that if you don't get the applause, very often the people who walk away or don't come up and say to you are the lives that you've shifted. And that's vital for all of us to know. So that really resonated beautifully for me. I thought it was really important. I love what Jordan was saying about courage and failure. Because I don't know about you guys, but I think failure fucking sucks. I mean, I really do. There's no other way of putting it. I really don't like no at all, and I don't like failure at all. But I was born in a ghetto. I was surrounded by failure and no. And you know what? I heard Tony Robbins say many years ago, he said, if you want to be successful, observe what successful people do and do what they do. Well, where I grew up, there wasn't any. What I became fascinated with was people who completely fucked it up continuously. So, I would meet people. Well, when I say meet, let me be clear. There were family members, who, like my mother, to be very specific, who would have a man in her life who would treat her like shit, and then she would trade him in. Well, that's not true. He would get rid of her, and she'd find another one who would do exactly the same. And I became fascinated with what was glaringly obvious, how people could ignore what was glaringly obvious and repeat that. That was fascinating to me to learn how people became magnificent at failure, that they set themselves up to repeat the same cycle over and over again. And part of the distinction of what you talked about, Jordan, which I think was important, was that somebody willing to say, you know what, this pattern needs to be interrupted. And you interrupted that with your son. You didn't let him just fail, because that's the problem. Failure is an absolute if you let it be an absolute. But if you don't let it be an absolute, if you move it to the next stage, I think that was really powerful and important message. And then, of course, when Adam spoke, first of all, I want to really compliment you. Storytelling is a passion for me. And the people who can tell a story with connection, who are genuinely connected, that for me that's an example of touching people's lives. If I don't remember the story, it doesn't matter. But I will remember. One of the things I teach speakers is, if you want them to hear you, you must feel it. They can't feel it till you do. And what Adam shared was so beautiful in that. And that, for me, what I heard in that is a very important part of my life is there's shit messages in my head. I don't know if you've noticed that about your head. Anybody else notice that? Has anybody else noticed you got some shitty messages? Has anybody else noticed that? Yeah. Right. Every one of us got programmed with crap, right? But there's somebody who doesn't see you that way. And the story I tell is this, is that on the day you were born, I don't know who it was. Maybe it was your dad, maybe it was your mom, maybe it was a nurse, maybe it was a doctor, but somebody held you in their arms and looked at you as that baby, as that just beyond fetus. And they held you in their arms, and they looked in your eyes and they went, wow, you are a miracle. And that seeing that person that way, and all the programming, all the shit gets piled on us, and we forget that. All of us, every single one of us, forget that. And what Adam was saying there was that there's somebody in your life who sees you in a way that you don't see yourself. And that's what I always want to be to the people I interact with. I want to be the person who can see you, not for who you believe you are, but to see what I believe is your soul, to see that pureness that is untouchable. And that his Yahya and his aunt were able to see him as that magnificent being. And so to live your life from the place of living up to that place of somebody who can see you beyond your own shit, because we spend a lot of time convincing ourselves that we're crap. And having that person, I think that's just a magnificent gift. So all three were spectacular. Thank you. Please give them another round of applause.
And it's fantastic hearing how you interpret, how what you get out, how they served you. So you said that you find it your responsibility to see that rawness, right? So first off, how did we get all that shit piled up onto us? And why can't we drop it? Like, what makes it so hard that what the first thing, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not bright enough, I'm not beautiful enough, whatever it is. So as humans, how do we drop that ego? How do we drop the ego and just see that thing?
It's a great question because, you brought up the word ego, which is in the front of that book. And there's so much misconception about ego because we think of ego as this, as looking a bit like a certain person who might be moving to an address in Washington soon. Not thinking of anybody in particular, but, in a general sense. Right? We think of ego as being this bombastic and overriding, but the truth is that the job of ego is to keep you safe. That is the number one job of ego, to keep you safe. And what is safe? Very simple. What is familiar? Familiar from the Latin, familiar, meaning family. So whatever you got used to is where your ego is always going to try and keep you to because it's trying to keep you safe. The problem is that can I just ask, how many of you here have a coach of some kind in some way, shape, or form? Put your hand up if you have a coach. Well, that's 4 of you. That's great. Wow. We need to work on this audience.
We'll work on it.
Right, so, we all know what coaches do, though, right? They cheer you on. They see great things in you. They help you to build the resources, whatever it is. But what we don't realize is that we all have coaches. But most of the coaches we have are coaches who keep us confined. They coach us back into our comfort zone. They say, "Oh, Michael, you want to do that? Well, that's nice, dear, but maybe you should just not think so big. Like, you don't want to let people down. You don't want to just get disappointed." We're surrounded by people who do that, and it's their fear projected onto us. And we take that on. Now, why do we take it on? Well, you're my mom, and you put that on me, and I love you, and I don't want to lose your love. So I'm going to go along with that. And I'm 4 or 5, and I'm 6, I'm 10, I'm 12. I don't go, you know what? My mom's a bit fucked up. She really needs some serious therapy. I don't do that. I go, I love my mom. I love my mom. I want to keep my mom in my life, even if she wants to plant all my relatives in my apartment. By the way, Sean, my limit, 4 days. But guess what it is now? 4 hours. It used to be 4 days. Now it's 4 hours. Cannot do 4 days. So it gets piled on because, and it's interesting because of your comment earlier about swarms. Mm-hmm. Because the primary driver in human beings is to belong. We are tribal. We want to belong. Egoically, we feel like we're separate, but we've driven to belong. So if I want to belong, I can't feel outside. I need to feel inside. I need to feel part of. If I'm going to feel part of, then I got to accept the rhetoric. I got to accept the culture of this family, of this group, whoever it is I'm around. I mean, if you really want to understand yourself and where you're stuck, think about whatever problem you've got in your life, whatever it is, and now think about how many people you know with exactly the same problem. Right? And you know what's dumb? Is you're asking them for advice. That's what's really dumb. Oh, I think my love life's really bad. I could really do with some help. I just can't find a decent guy. And who are you talking to? The other schmuck who can't find any decent guys. Come on. Speak to somebody who has a decent relationship. That would be a start, right? I'm going broke. I really need some help. Oh, you've never had any money. Give me some advice. Listen, So that's part of the thing. We want to belong, but we're talking inside of our own comfort zone. And that comfort zone, as you and I talked about, is not a comfort zone, actually. What it is a numb zone. It's the numb zone. And it's this narrow band of experience that if I go above it, I'm going to feel exuberance. I'm going to feel excited. I'm going to feel passion. And if I go below it, I'm going to feel my pain. Well, fuck that. I don't want to feel my pain. So I'm going to stay in this numb zone. If I go up there, I'm going to have to feel down there because you don't get one without the other. So I'll just stay in the numb zone. How's things? They're good. How are they? Fine. F-I-N-E. Fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. How are you? Oh, very nice. Neurotic, insecure, controlling my emotions. So we stay in this numb zone rather than experiencing that greatness, that magnificence that was in us that day. And we don't question it. But that magnificence never went away. That diamond is untouchable. No, you can bury that diamond under 30 tons of shit, and it's still a magnificent diamond. But your job now the rest of your life is to clear the shit. That's it.
So, how do you clear the shit?
That's a great question. It's a lifelong journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is part of the challenge with us is that we're always looking for the end. We're always looking for the end. I consciously, now remember, I'm a ghetto kid, and I put myself into therapy at 19. So I go in to see this doctor, the female doctor. Her name was Dr. Dick. Right? Poor woman, right? She's a counselor in a ghetto area, right? And her name is Dr. Dick. Am I going to tell anybody who I went to see? No, in your life. But I signed myself up. And I went to see her because I knew, this sense that there was something greater than my experience. I knew there was something more, and I wanted to do that. And like everybody else, I get into this place where, aren't I done with this yet? Aren't I done with this yet? And the only thing I can explain to you is this, what I had to learn for myself, because I got frustrated with it, is you and I are walking along the beach in South Africa, and you find this neat rock. You pick it up. You say, that's a cool rock. And I go, yeah, it is. I say, I'll pay you $10 for it. You go, okay. It's a rock, found on the beach. What the hell? So I take it. Now I got a bit of an eye, so I figure it's more than just a rock. So I take it home, and I take it to my friend who's a jeweler, and I say, I think there might be something in here. So he cracks open a rock, and of course, there's a diamond in there. Now, at that point, let's make up a number. The diamond is worth, according to my jewelry friend, $5,000. So my friend says, I'll give you $5,000 for it. Well, I paid $10 for it. Great deal. No problem. But my friend then says, I'm going to Amsterdam on the weekend. I'm going to take it with me. So he flies to Amsterdam. And he meets up with all the nice members of our tribe who polish the diamonds. And they realize that, hold on, there's many diamonds here, and there's one in the middle that is spectacular. And they begin to cut and shave and polish. And every time they take something away, it actually becomes more valuable. You see, the trap that we live in is that we think we're going to have greater value by adding. But the value is in removing. It's the polishing, it's the refinement that gets us to the diamond. And so, yeah, I've done a lot of work, and yeah, I'm pretty refined, but is there more? Of course. I want to polish that.
I love the analogy of the more you remove, and it would be fun to see. I'm sure there's studies that show, like, at what point do we have so much that that's when we really need to start removing. But for the purpose of serving others today and removing, and this idea of familiar, which comes, I didn't know that about the word family, right? Yeah. One thing that just fascinates me is your work with the UN.
Mm-hmm.
And quickly just talk about that, what you do, because I ask myself, all right, so now you've got all this shit on top of you, right? And you're removing stuff, and here you go, and all these role models, including you, are saying, well, we're serving others, right? But there's a lot of people in the world we don't like, right? Or we don't connect with, or we don't agree. They are not familiar to us. They are not family to us. So are we just supposed to serve just the people that are familiar to us? Are we supposed to serve others? So first, just explain what you do with the UN real quick so we can put it in context.
Well, first thing I will say is this, is you can't serve from above. So just please note that. You can't serve from above. If you think you're better than somebody else, you can't serve them. That's the first thing, to get rid of that. So I was invited to speak at the UN with the State Department with a fellow speaker who I actually trained to be a speaker. His name is Tony Mack. Tony Mack runs a group called Life After Hate. Tony Mack was a neo-Nazi. In fact, he ran the neo-Nazi recruiting, and he was the head of it for Western Canada, Western US, and had a massive following, ran a neo-Nazi record company, and was hugely popular. Tony is an incredibly bright man. And he got invited to come to one of my events. He came and my friend who invited him gave him a gift of spending an hour with me. And so we spent an hour together, and I didn't know his background. So we're spending an hour together, and I said, all right, let's just get down to it. Just tell me what you can't tell me. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, whatever the shit is that you're hiding, let's just not bother. Let's just get it out. And he's sitting there, and you can see this guy. Like this is he's a powerful guy. He's incredibly articulate. He's very bright, but he is, he's needing diapers. Like he's really freaking out here, and he starts to sweat. And he's telling me about how he was a neo-Nazi, and he's telling me about all the things that they did and how they recruited and denied the Holocaust and all those kinds of things. And he looks over at me, and I'm like. And he just eventually just has to say, what are you smiling at? Now he's pissed. What are you smiling at? I go, you do know that I was born Jewish, right? And he goes, fuck. Irony of ironies. And so at the UN, the thing we were asked was how could, because I, quote, de-radicalized him, that's the term. How could I do that? How could I serve him? How could I possibly serve him? Why didn't I serve people who were picked on by people like him? And the answer was, I could serve him because I am him. I don't live in the world, I live in the mirror. If I don't have compassion, if I'm not willing to see you in me, then I can't serve you, then I'm better than you. And so that's how so when they were asked Tony, well, how did he de-radicalize you? He goes, well, first of all, we never used the term de-radicalization. We wouldn't do that. And he said, well, what did you do? And I said, they were there. I was asked to come in to help them to find this unifying language around de-radicalization. And I said, you're way out. It's never going to work. As soon as you uniform it and you make it, then you're going to get people breaking away. And they said, well, what is the language? And I said, the language is rapport. And I said, Tony, tell him, instead of de-radicalization, what language did we use? He said, oh, Monty Python, Man United, Liverpool. Because that's what he knew. I knew that. He knew that. That was the common ground. You've got to get yourself off the pedestal. And that's what it was about. It was about serving from a place of, this person's no different than me, because what I could see in him was this. What I could see in him was not, I understood that behavior was not who he was. We think we're our behavior. That's not who he was. What he is actually is a great leader and has become a great leader. And at the UN thing, on this side I had Jesse, who was the lead recruiter for Al-Qaeda. And on this side I got Tony, who's the lead recruiter for the neo-Nazis. Awesome guys. I mean, genuinely, fabulous guys, lovely guys, beautiful guys, big hearts, great leaders. Not when they were doing that. That was a behavior. But who they are as people, beautiful guys, really, honestly. If you didn't know and you spent time with them, you'd go, these are great guys, they're leaders, they're heartfelt, they're connected. But they were in pain. And when we're in pain, we behave in destructive ways. There's a quote from the Peaceful Warrior, and it says, those who appear to deserve love the least are the ones who need it the most. And remembering that and having compassion for that is what makes the difference.
Say that one more time.
those who appear to deserve love the least are the ones who deserve it the most, who need it the most.
So let's put this into something. We're not sitting next to those people on a regular basis, especially in the time when they were taking actions that were harmful to people, right?
Sure.
We're on the subway or the bus and someone goes, "You're an asshole." And then you go home and you think about it all day long and you tell everybody. How do we see that in that person?
First of all, it's two sides. So the first of all is, why is it echoing in your brain? The reason it's echoing in your brain because it's a validation of a shitty belief you got. So see, my mother, my auntie, my mother, my father, my uncle, that kid at school was right because this random stranger on the subway screamed that at me. It must be true. I must radiate asshole. So, it becomes a validation. And we're always looking for validation, negative or positive. So that's number one. And number two is, and please understand, I am not saying I'm great at this every day. I'm not. Sometimes I'm crap, really crap. And I get pissed off just like everybody else. But when I'm good at it is when I remember that behavior is reactional. So one of the things I learned, and this is part of the premise of my marriage, is you're married. Mm-hmm. You've probably had experiences, I'm sure only once, where your wife was pissed at you and you had no idea why.
Never.
No, it never happened in your Never happened in your marriage.
Never.
Right. So your partner's pissed at you, you have no idea why, right? Because you didn't do anything wrong. I mean, everything was good. Why? What's it all about? So one of the things we teach in relationship is context of relationship. See, if we're in a relationship and you're suddenly pissed, the first question I have to ask is it about me? Because I'm sure as hell going to make it about me. But is it actually about me? The person screaming at me, asshole, on the subway, it seems like it's about me, but it's not actually personal. So what is it? And so here's the thing about human beings, just for all of us to know. Human beings make shit up. I don't know if you've noticed that about yourself. Have you noticed that about yourself? Yeah. Human beings make shit up. So here's the thing. You are going to make shit up, so you might as well make up good stuff. True, right? So when you walk in the house, it's the person you love, it's the person you're closest to. Your wife's feeling crappy with you, or appears to be, you're going to make it about you. But what if it's got nothing to do with you? What if it's that she's hungry? Or hangry, right? What if like what if it's that she has a bellyache? What if it's that she stubbed her toe before you walked in? What if it's that she spoke to her mother and her mother was a cow? Right? What if it was that she spoke to her brother and her brother was an ass? What if it's that she spoke to her friend and her friend's going through some stuff and she's feeling the pain of that? What if, there's a million what ifs that have nothing to do with you? And removing yourself a little bit to go, oh, maybe it's not about me. Really? Not everything's about me? Allows us to step into compassion. It allows us to step back and go into a place of compassion and say, well, I can see something's going on, sweetie. Do you want to share? Is there something you'd like to talk to me about? And, I've done that to my own wife. And by the way, I've done it the other way. Did I do something? It's not like I haven't done that. I've done that. I think it was yesterday. I do that too, but I don't want to make that the behavior. So what I have to do is, is something going on, babe? What's going on? You seem upset. And what I get back is 99 out of 100 times. It's got nothing to do with me. So when that person is that way with you, notice that your reaction is because it has a familiar place to land. There's some belief system that it's validating. And second of all, to move to a place of compassion and go, wow, I wonder what kind of shitty thing happened in that person's life that they're behaving that way, and I'm the easiest target now.
So then what's the difference between compassion, empathy,
and
sympathy?
That was the conversation we had,
yeah.
Right? So, and it's fascinating to me because if I ask people, generally speaking, most people don't actually know. What's the difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion? Kind of the same thing, right? No. So sympathy is the most disempowering thing you can possibly do to anybody. Please don't have sympathy for people. What it does is validates that they're a victim, and it gives you a lot of superiority. Oh, you poor dear. You know, it's very there. It minimizes people. It's really disempowering to people, and I honestly think it's very damaging. So I don't want to ever have sympathy for anybody. I don't have sympathy. I try to do my best to not have sympathy because it elevates me and puts them down. Empathy, as I'm sure you're aware, as we've all heard the term, is walking a mile in somebody else's moccasins. It's allowing yourself to feel what they feel. And my favorite explanation of empathy versus compassion is from the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama says that empathy is, I walk through the forest and I see a man with a boulder on his chest. And I lie down on the floor and I feel the weight. I imagine the weight of that boulder on my chest. And I have a deep empathy for what it feels like. He says, and in compassion, once I've felt that, I get up and find something to help him get the rock off his chest. So compassion is active. Sympathy is disempowering. Empathy is passive. But compassion is active. I want to be compassionate. I want to be empathetic, of course, but I want to be compassionate. I want to take it to the next level because then I take on personal responsibility for serving and making the world a better place. And that's all I'm doing every day is looking at how I can serve.
So how do we become more compassionate? Because again, I think all these layers on top make me go, I can't be compassionate towards that person because of that belief or that color of their skin or whatever it is, because it's something that's not familiar to us. So how do we now bring ourselves to the ability to be more compassionate, to bring more compassion to the world, and therefore serve other peoples? What are the most immediate things we can do?
Well, it's what I said before. It's understanding that nobody's different than me. So looking for the common rather than the uncommon. I watched a short documentary last night, actually, of an American boogie-woogie pianist. Mm-hmm. This black guy has played with Jerry Lee Lewis. He played with Chuck Berry. I mean, he's there, right? This guy's, and watching him play, he was phenomenal. And he goes to Klan meetings. Ku Klux Klan meetings. He has all the robes. They've given him the robes. And you see him interacting with them. And there's a young black journalist interviewing him, and she goes, I just don't know how you could do it. And he goes, that's the problem. Because you don't know how I could do it. That's the problem. He goes, I go looking for what we have in common, not what we have that divides us. And he goes, and as a result, he goes, of course there'll be members of the Klan who want to do things, but these people regard him as a friend. And, he's not, he's a full black man. I mean, there's nothing about him that's not that way. But he's not in any denial of who he is. He's not in denial of who they are. And he says that I don't have to agree with them. But I've got to look for what we have in common. What is it? What is it? So one of the things that just happened, as I'm sure you're familiar with, there's a guy just got elected to be president of the United States. And as you know, I wrote several pieces on that. One of them was called Decoding Trump, that went viral. And I wrote about how the mechanisms he was using to get, and I said back in March, everybody's underestimating this guy, he's going to win. When I was having discussions with people recently about the fact that he'd been elected, and somebody said to me, yeah, the people, and they were judging the people who voted for him and saying that they were, they were unintelligent, they were trailer trash and all these things. And I said, you're so freaking wrong. And they said, what do you mean? I said, let me just tell you who voted for Trump. Enough to make the difference for him to get in. And they said, who? This is the same people who voted for Obama. No way. I go, absolutely. There were people who wanted change and felt like they weren't heard. That simple. They didn't feel they would be heard by Hillary, that it was just going to be this. And so they voted for somebody they felt would hear them. They wanted change. And if you look at it from that place, you now come out of the judgment of them being trailer trash or uneducated, and you see people who are in pain who want to be heard. And as I wrote about in that article, I'm not saying it was good, but he manipulated the process to become the voice of the disenfranchised. This is what it takes. So with all things, there is two sides to every blade, as you are aware, And, it can be used very manipulatively. It can be used to empower and bond. But it is that connection of understanding what do we have in common. I mean, I wrote in that article, I said the greatest stunt anybody ever pulled was a guy who's got silver poisoning from the spoon in his mouth has convinced the disenfranchised poor that he represents them. That's pretty spectacular, right? That's pretty well done. Because he became the voice of the disenfranchised. And what he did was he looked for where the familiarity, looked for where the common ground was. And that's what we have to do. This is what we can learn from Donald Trump. That's what we have to do. I can look in this room and see everybody who's not me, or I can look in this room and see everybody who is me. Thank you.
What would the world look like if everybody was more compassionate?
Jesus. Well, first of all, fucking miraculous, because it's not going to happen. We all know that. But it's not about, see, and this is, again, not about the end result. It's not about it happening. It's about doing it a little bit more tomorrow, a little bit more today. It's about finding somebody, like, so I know this is hard to believe. My wife still has a hard time believing it, but I'm shy. It's true. I actually am shy. So it's difficult for me to walk up to a stranger in a room and say hello. But I make myself do it. Do you know why I make myself do it? A, to get over my shyness. And B, because the person I don't want to talk to is likely me. And that's how I convince myself. I wonder what it is about that person that reflects me. When somebody walks in a room, we've all had that experience. You walk in a room, you feel that vibe from somebody, you're like, I don't want to talk to them. Right? You've all had that, right? Don't lie. You've all had that. Right? You're like, well, what is it? I don't know. There's just something about them. They think they're better than everybody else. How do you know? They haven't said anything. We've all had that experience. And I can tell you, it makes my skin crawl. I make myself go and talk to that person. And all I'm looking for is, how are you like me? Now, sometimes I will be honest with you, it's not apparent. Sometimes it's very difficult to find it. But Tony was me. See, when we got down to it, what I got was, we were talking about this when we met. And I said that in an interview, somebody asked me, what is your legacy? And my legacy is pretty massive. And they said, but just give us a single piece. And I said, okay. My legacy is to be a father to men. That's my legacy. Because I've never met a man who didn't need a healthy father. We're all waiting for that. And if we were those men, we would treat women a hell of a lot better. We would honor women. Women are spectacular, and we've disempowered them because we are disempowered. And so the legacy is to be a father to men. Well, what does that mean? It means I have to do this. With every man I meet, I have to do this. I have to see that baby. So when I looked at Tony, I could see a man who needed a father. And and I have people I work with. I work with very high-powered individuals who, seem to have it all together. And, you look at them, you go, oh, I wish I was like, fuck, they got the same shit you got, right? When they go to the toilet, same stuff comes out as it comes out of your bum, comes out of theirs. The same shit in their head is the shit in your head. It's not different. They're just driven by different things. And remembering that about people, that humanity, that's what shifts absolutely everything. And that's what actually bonds people to you as a leader, because I work with leaders. People are not bonded to your spectacularness. They admire that, but they're bonded to your humanity, which is what Adam did so beautifully, was he showed us his humanity of feeling like a complete loser, but needing that love and going and being with those people, and it mattered more than the humiliation. Spectacular.
Thank you for showing us our humanity. how can people learn more? How can people learn more about you? Is it social media? Is there a website?
Yeah, social media, but if you want to know about my stuff directly, you can go to Full Monty Leadership. In other words, strip it naked, and that's to do with leadership from being naked. So fullmontyleadership.com. Under more articles, that's my blog. I have a podcast, Dove Barron Full Monty Leadership, with hundreds of guests, hundreds of shows. Been doing it for 8 years. So you find out there. I'm also on Entrepreneur Magazine, a bunch of other places that you can find outlets, and of course YouTube. So go to YouTube and you can find me again, Dove Barron Full Monty Leadership. And there's stuff on anything you could think of. There's lots of different things, including we just recently did a brand survey. And in the brand survey, we do a survey and we compare myself with other leaders, one of whom was the very famous Lolly Driscoll, who's back there. And so it's like, what do they? It's called your embarrassing moment. So it's like, find out what we do. And somebody actually said that they thought I spoke about bodybuilding. Really, because I have a series of videos that are called Sweaty Leadership Tips, and they're literally filmed in the gym when I'm all sweaty, right? But it's like I realized that this exercise or this thing I'm doing in the gym is a metaphor for so bodybuilding is a metaphor for leadership. So some people think I do that. So you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on all kinds of places.
Yeah, I've never seen someone generate more content than this guy right here. So just Google his name and you'll see him. I want you up here for the final part. So at the end of each episode, I always have ended so far, every single one, reminding everyone that cute quotes don't make you successful, right? And great role models don't make you successful. Action does. And so I was recently talking to a friend. I was like, you know what? I love doing the legacy show, but I don't know if people are making it stick. So this is an opt-in exercise. Everyone take out your phone real quick if you got your phone with you or if you're on it. So pull out your phone real quick. And what I want you to do right now is, whether it's, and you can help guide this too, whether it's to show some compassion, it's to call a family member, a great aunt, or it's to take action. Call the gym, text someone right now, or text someone right now, or text someone to hold you accountable for the next step that you're going to take. Because these stories are not what is going to take you to the next step. You are going to take you to the next step. So I want you to text somebody right now. I'm giving you 30 seconds. I'm going to play some music. Or Dove, you can sing.
Well, I'm definitely not going to sing because everybody will leave very quickly. But I want to give you an exercise too, if I can.
Yeah. Oh, you want me?
No. Well, I do, but that's wife's here, you know what I mean? Go for it, she says. Go for it. So I'd like to give you an exercise because, what Michael just said is really important. I got really bad news for you. Let's just ask this, right? Not about me, any of the speakers. Did any of you have any kind of an aha this evening? Put your hand up. Yeah. Come on, be brave. Okay? Just keep your hand up. And I want you to know that is worth absolutely nothing. Let's be really clear. It's worth nothing. Ahas are worth nothing at all. They're egoic. You get to brag about what you learned. You get to inspire your friends. And then Monday will come, and you know what Monday will be? Fucking Monday. That's what Monday will be. Monday. It'll be just the same old shit. So we don't change through ahas. We don't even change through great tragedy. We don't even change through great windfall. We change through a decision that is based on a projection moving forward. So what my challenge to you, my exercise to you, is how can you create not an aha moment, but a fuck it moment. Fuck it, I cannot be this way anymore. Fuck it, I cannot live this way anymore. Fuck it, I cannot be less compassionate. I can't be denied of compassion anymore. Like, you have to make an emotional, passionate decision. Not just an intellectual, rational one. Oh, that was very insightful. I'll tweet it out, and guess what? Nothing changes. Who cares? Make a fuck it decision. I can't bear this anymore. It has to change. That is what will transform your life. It's not the aha, but the fuck it.
And when you do the fuck it moment, then put it on social media what that fuck it moment was. We want to see it. We want to hold you accountable, okay?
Yeah, put it on social media so your people can hold you accountable.